go ahead and talk about today. And let's see, did I get it to start? Didn't. Let me go back. Oops, I'm going forward. Brian, what's back? Oh, the arrow keys. There we go.
Yeah.
I did. There's the cover sheet. That's what I said. It came up. Okay. So today we'd like to talk about the pedestrian safety workshop. So it's been an issue in Cave Creek for years. And while we had crosswalks, we did not have any really sort of system to allow pedestrians to cross Cave Creek Road. In 2017, we put in a pedestrian crossing from the two bars, actually two different crossings, one from Harold's to the Roadhouse and the other one from our down the street. Huh?
That Rebel Ranch Hideaway?
The Rubber Ranch Hideaway one, yes. Those were,
I frequent those.
I know you do. So anyway, those were put in, and then in 2019, based upon recommendations from a traffic engineering firm, the town installed raised vertical markers and signs at the existing crosswalk to bring attention to the crosswalk for the pedestrians. Everyone remember the vertical posts that we put in as an interim. We were replacing a lot of those. They did not go over well with some of the motorists in town. So actually about that time frame, we have a actual recreation of a pedestrian trying to cross Cave Creek Road. Why is that doing what it did? So we had, what didn't go forward? There it goes. So we had a pedestrian trying to cross Cave Creek Road. Anyway, yes, an old Frogger. So the first step that the town made was in 2019, where the town made application and was awarded a local area safety study from the Maricopa Association of Governments. And project was extended because a couple of weeks before they were coming to take the pedestrian counts and all that, this thing called COVID-19 broke out. And when they would have been here to take the measurements, I think you could have fired a cannon off in the street. There were no cars. There were certainly no pedestrians and nothing to really measure. So we waited almost a year before we got the counts done. And this study made general recommendations, but it wasn't enough. Wasn't anything that we could budget. Didn't have projects identified. And so we asked for sort of like Oliver Twist. We went back and said, we'd like some more, please. And so the county being, or MAG being what they are and being a good partner, they produced a second study which identified specific projects. They identified benefit cost ratios and things that we could actually take to MAG for funding. So we made application for 3 projects, which were the top 3 benefit cost ratio ones on the list. They were a speed table and RFB at Roadhouse, speed table and at Hilltop, and an RFB speed table at Hidden Valley, also Hilltop. So Hilltop is Kiwanis. I have to translate the traffic engineer speak. And these projects were the best benefit cost and met the requirements of MAG. And while we were close, the town was not selected for any funding that year. There were like 30 some applications. The best we could get with one of them was 6th place, and they funded 5. So we did not have funding for the project. The benefit cost ratio, how they do it is basically it's a number that they have a formula for doing. There's a worksheet that you can put in, but it considers crashes at specific locations, cross reduction factor for what will happen if we put in the signal or light, total project cost, design and construction, the project life, the annual maintenance costs, and then MAG uses these procedures to determine if a project is fundable. We use it to determine if what projects are priority. So in November 23, a discussion was held with the town council to get direction on what we wanted to do with traffic control and pedestrian study. And there were the three crossings, Hidden Valley, Hilltop, and Harold, were presented with the following options. Town staff was to enter a design contract for the three elevated pedestrian crosswalks and rectangular flashing beacons. To enter into a design contract for only the rectangular rapid flashing beacons at the three locations, and direct staff to enter into a design contract for only the elevated pedestrian crosswalks, or maintain the current conditions, which were basically just the painted crosswalks. The council directed staff to enter into design contract for the installation of the rectangular flashing beacons at the three locations, and those crossings have been installed and are performing well. So we did put the one in at Kiwanis, one at basically Hidden Valley, and one at the bars. We took the one that was already there and we augmented it. The town also installed 3 new speed feedback signs, which was item number 3 on the priority list. That way we could track what the speeds through town were. And no, these are not photographic devices. They don't keep any car dealer, car manufacturer, license plate, or any of their information. All they're doing is saying, this many cars went by, these were the speeds of the cars, and gives us a breakdown of when the speeds were and when they weren't, or how many went by. And the most we've gotten, I think we had one guy break 99 miles an hour through town, is what we've seen through some of our readings, about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Was that person intercepted?
Don't know. We do look at the information of when things are happening. And if there's a consistent outlier of speed versus time, we do that. We share that with the people down the street here. So the proposed projects that we want to do.
Oh, whoa,
Sure.
whoa.
Go ahead.
History. What are the statistics? I mean, all this started because we had pedestrian safety issues. Have those improved? Has the average speed in town improved?
Average speed has dropped by about 2 miles an hour. But I don't know whether that's because of the pedestrian crossings, which are really not meant to control speed. Or whether because we've had an increase in enforcement through town.
Well, we made major efforts on a lot of other areas on pedestrian safety. I'm writing these down as we go. One is we really bumped up the enforcement. We gave out a lot more tickets, including Adam and the sheriff. 2, we put in a bunch of walkways. We put walkways up and down, got new easements to put those walkways in, constructed new walkways in town. We put in no parking areas, including on Jack Cartwright, to take care of that pedestrian safety issue. And we put in a bunch of parking on Viola to reduce the possibilities. So, there's a lot more in the history than I see here.
You're correct. As far as pedestrian safety, the council and staff have really pushed to have the walkways, connectivity, and also the safety of the public in mind as we do these things.
Do we have any metrics on pedestrian safety now to compare with the metrics we had when we kicked all this stuff off in 2019?
I will say that when we were looking at just a recent study, the study that we'll get to later about the intersection of Rancho Manana and Cave Creek Road. In 2022, we had 5 accidents at that intersection. Whether they were bike, whether they were sideswipe, but we had 5 accidents that one year. We have
Is
had
that the
zero.
most dangerous location in?
I don't know if that is or not, but it's one that we're looking at right now because it has, between that and Spur Cross are probably where we have the most left turns coming out. And it's on a curve and there's a whole bunch of things going on at that intersection. But what we find is that in 23 and 24, 0 accidents. So whether that's because of the enforcement, the the signalization or whatever, but we had 0 accidents in 23 and 24 at that location. And I'm only bringing that location because we've done the metrics on that specific location within the since March.
Are you watching the metrics on the intersections in town, the roads and the intersections in town that the
We're
state
watching,
compiles?
we're watching the speed metrics through town. As far as looking at the traffic control, the speed devices that we have, and we've taken those over years of information. So what we're seeing is a trend going down in both the average speed and the 85th percentile speed.
And what is your conclusion from that?
That so far, I think the enforcement is helping to bring the speed down, and as the speed comes down, it improves the safety for the pedestrians.
What are those numbers? Average and 85?
The 85th percentile through town is running about 37 miles an hour now. It was up as high as 39. The average is running about 36.
We were doing 43 in the 2019 study was the number I recall.
Yeah, about that.
So we knocked 6 miles. I mean, I think there's a story here that we're missing, that we've done a lot of stuff on pedestrian safety. The
We-
speeds are way down. Tickets are way up. We put money into sidewalks, crosswalks,
Curb, yeah.
stuff I named here. So, we got a pretty good story here that needs to be out there in public. And if it should show up in the metrics that the state keeps on traffic accidents. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see how we had my recollection from 2019 is that we had 16 pedestrian car incidents over a 5-year period preceding that. And that kicked off a massive effort. I'd like to not lose that history and see if we have metrics that will confirm that all the steps we took have paid off.
Yeah.
You can't tell which one was because we did so many things. But I think the 2 metrics of speed through town and the number of accidents, I mean, that's the metric for traffic safety in town.
That is. And again, today we're dealing with more pedestrian safety, but we also, when we deal with our traffic, we're also looking at pedestrian, equestrian, and cycling that we try and look at within our bike lanes and things like that. So when we're measuring the accidents, we try and also segment them into those different buckets because we do have a lot of equestrian, we do have a lot of cycling through town. And so we do keep track of those metrics. So we can certainly provide.
Let's see what the statistics say.
Okay,
I mean, if it's not measured, it's not managed. That's the old management saying that is maybe the most important in keeping things on track over a long period of time. And so
I agree.
I think the town needs to focus on those metrics, speed through town and the number of accidents, so that when we have something that goes off the rails, we know about it and we can act on it. And I think it ought to be tracked and brought out.
The other
We've
one
got a
is
good
the-
story to tell,
The
Frank.
severity of the accidents, because as you reduce speed, then the severity of the accident tends to decrease
I
as
agree.
well.
Maybe we can get some publicity for the people that we really are interested and we're making progress.
Okay.
So it's an issue.
But we'll pull those numbers together. The proposed projects, the flashing warning beacon. So what we have is before the crosswalk, we have a sign that warns people. Okay, I'll bet. Oh, sorry, I did on this one. Maybe I have to do it here. Okay, why is it not advancing? Down button, we'll see. It's advancing on my screen, but what am I doing wrong?
Nothing. I think Zoom may be having some quirks today.
Okay,
I'm gonna do a stop share and then reshare.
there we go. So the beacons, what we're looking at doing is that on the signs, and let me go to the next slide. You see where the crosswalks are, and then you can see where what we call the shark teeth are in advance of the crosswalks. There is a pedestrian sign there saying, stop here for crosswalks. Well, they get blended into the background. So what we want to do is add a 12-inch beacon, like on top of this stop sign, on top of those at the 3 locations. They're 12-inch beacons. They're going to be run by solar, and they will be able to, so when somebody goes to press the light to activate it, it will flash in advance of the crosswalk. So you'll now have the flashing beacon at the crosswalk and the warning beacon about 100 feet up before it that will go off and let somebody know that there's somebody getting ready to cross the crosswalk. One more little piece of sort of insurance policy to try and protect the people crossing.
We notice a lot of drivers when they're coming into town, they're gawking. They're looking here, they're looking there, and it's like at last minute when they're upon the crosswalk. So this is one more opportunity for them to see a flashing sign, and the button that activates the ones that we have now will activate these in advance. And how far away are they from?
About 100 to 150 feet.
Okay.
So there's plenty of stopping distance before they would be into the crosswalk. And so you would have the warning beacon, you'd have the rectangular flashing beacon at the crosswalk itself. And then at the one location that we have, which is the between Harold's, they have the ones in the street. But the ones in the street can be seen, but I don't know that they're as effective. I think it's the flashing beacon on the side, and then these beacons will call attention to somebody in the crosswalk. And then at night, when you push the button, there's also a light that lights up the crosswalk and then goes out. Yes.
Some people don't push the button. Something that maybe could, like weight of a person could activate those lights. They're walking across the street, get to push the button.
We can look at it, but right now, we're hoping that they will push the button to cross the street. I mean,
Okay.
to activate the lights. There are automated ones. They do put them on bike trails, but the costs go up to quite a bit. And then what happens is you get a lot of false readings of somebody who walks by there, like maybe going into a bar or stumbling into a bar, who then activates the signal. So again, if it's something that the council wants us to look at, we certainly can, but I'd rather have it sort of the push button so that we don't have a lot of false readings. Yeah.
Cynthia was first.
Is the duration of the flashing light the same as the duration of the crosswalk light?
Yes, they will be on the same signal. So when one goes off, the other will go off.
Do you have a sense of what portion of people are actually using the crosswalks?
Uh,
Not enough, I know, but
not enough.
beyond that.
On bull riding nights, there were probably as many people coming out of the chip, going diagonally across the street rather than walking down to the crosswalk and going across Harold's. So even if there's a crosswalk at the chip, which we'll talk about in a minute, uh, there's not a, they tend to want to go diagonally across. And so we're trying to come up with other methods to deter that path. But for right now, the question is, assuming that they're going to get to the crosswalk, we've connected the walkways between them so that there is a pedestrian walkway in front of the chip, in front of Rebel Ranch, and in front of Harold that gets you to the crosswalk. And same thing on the other side of the street in front of going from the Circle K all the way over to Roadhouse.
I think part of the confusion on the, the ones that are on the street is their white lights. And anytime you have a white light, people just kind of say, oh, okay, it's just warning me. If it's a red light, you'd probably have a better chance of stopping them.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at for these is because of the MUTCD, I think they have to be yellow, in advance of the crosswalk. Would I like them to be red? Yes, but I think they have to be yellow. But we can check into that.
Dusty, were you, I agree with you that the white lights are, red light means stop, the white
Yeah.
light,
Yeah,
is that what you're?
yeah, I just, I mean, I've occasionally go over to the pizza place and pick up a pie. And, obviously driving by the and I see the beacons go off and I see people just kind of, oh, look at the flashing lights. And they keep on driving.
Yeah, so we're trying to get a little bit advance on either side of it to try and set that off. We think that will be a safety measure that for the 3 crosswalks we have, the equipment's about 28,000 and our crews can install them with a little help from the vendor.
I'd like to see if you can check on the red lights for the flashing lights in the ground, simply because people stop, they realize that there's an issue. And, MAG may not like it, but that's probably a better way of going about doing it, even if MAG doesn't like it.
And I'll have to see if those lights were from the original installation and we just hooked them up with the new one. The other 2 crossings do not have the in-ground lights, the 2 new ones we put in.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into it. Do you want to explain? It's not MAG, it's the MUTC, what that
Yeah,
is?
it's the MUTCD is the federal publication for signs, lights, and things like that. It's the guideline that basically our insurance carriers want to make sure that we're abiding by.
Well, but they don't, I mean, everybody in the world has red lights flashing when they're pedestrians there. You go through Phoenix and Scottsdale and they're all over. I've never seen the white lights anywhere else but here.
I haven't seen red lights in the crosswalks, but I have seen like you.
Well, there's
Yeah.
down at Carolyn, I just went through it yesterday. Carolyn's got the red lights there on ton. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah,
Scottsdale Road.
they're
Yeah.
flashing red lights.
Thomas Road has a couple.
Yeah. We'll take a look and see whether,
The
again,
application that we
It's the same thing. It's a button. And if you don't push the button, the red light doesn't come on, but when it does, it comes on and it.
But it actually forces the vehicles to actually stop at an intersection. Those are stop lights
right.
that they're stopping at.
Yeah.
So it's, these
But
don't have
you can
stop
act-
lights
What-
or stop.
What Bob's saying is you can actually see the lights in the pavement itself. They're red and they're flashing.
Okay.
Again, I'll have to check and see how easy it is to change out those elements in those lights that are in the pavement. We'll check into that, but we'll do some research and see if we can do that.
Why not just put a red stoplight up at those things?
Well,
I mean, yeah.
They're like mid intersections. That's.
Well, so's Carolyn, so's in Tom. There are plenty of places that have those. There's one on, there's one on Pima. At,
I think you're probably correct that these lights, we'll check and see if these lights can be red. The ones that we're looking at, these beacons, because those would be where you want them to stop anyway at the shark teeth. So we can certainly look at those being a red light, much like we have on the lights at the stop signs that we have at Schoolhouse and Cave Creek Road.
But Bob, if I can, so you're suggesting that we even take a look at maybe having like those smaller traffic signals where those are as cars are coming up to the crosswalk when they push.
if someone pushes the button, we want the cars to stop.
Okay.
And I think it's a mix.
I think it's more than just the
As Dusty
illuminated.
said, it's
front
not a
light.
real strong message to stop it, because I've never seen them anywhere else. I've never seen it anywhere else. And people know what a flashing red light means. It means stop.
Okay, we will certainly look into it.
Let's hear from other council people, huh? Tom?
I like the idea, but for the opposite reason, or maybe because of it. If you come into Cave Creek, sorry, thank you. If you come into Cave Creek from Carefree, you basically have one stop sign from Carefree to past Rancho Manana. And I've always wondered and begged and cajoled that we get a traffic light at Schoolhouse. So I've given up on that for all the reasons you elucidate at every one of our meetings. But with Bob's suggestion, the mayor's suggestion, you're almost de facto getting a dual benefit, because you're bringing the pedestrian crossings to a stop, but you're using the psychology of encountering a red light, kind of like a traffic light. And that would probably do more to regulate the speed in this town, which is so bad. Stand in front of the car wash on any afternoon, particularly Friday afternoons, and it's a racetrack down the hill. We've taken all the medians out for God knows what reason. We need to really consider, in a rural community, restoring some of our medians with native vegetation. 5 lanes of asphalt is not a small town commercial corridor. So with one stop sign at Schoolhouse Road, this might kill 2 birds with 1 stone. If they have to stop once, twice, 3 times through the entertainment triangle, as it's referred to, it will slow the speed so that when they do accelerate, they still have the stop sign at Schoolhouse Road. And, you know, we have the blinking red light that Ernie Bunch put there, which I think is really helpful. With Bob's suggestion, you could put 1 more red light there, just a stop sign, but you could use the same poles. So psychologically, you're stopping either when pedestrians are there or you're stopping at Schoolhouse Road. If we continue to have stop signs in town and don't do these red lights, which I think is a great idea, we cannot live with the traffic zooming past Rancho Manana. And anybody who lives north of the downtown, which are many of us, we cannot get out onto Cave Creek Road. You can barely turn right, but you sure as heck cannot turn left. And if you guys would just give us a stop sign at Rancho Manana, we could look to see as they're slowing down and stopping, and then pull out a spur cross road and turn left, or a Schoolhouse. But before you start roundabouts and other things, which I think some people have an allergic reaction to, what the mayor has suggested this evening is really fascinating, because it might be more effective than a traditional 4-way stop with conventional traffic lights at Schoolhouse, but it would have the desired effect of bringing traffic to a complete halt once, twice, or 3 times in the downtown commercial corridor in lieu of more stop signs.
Yeah,
So I like the idea.
having the more stop signs doesn't decrease the number of cars, and it's really the number of cars. I'm not
Right.
disagreeing with the safety issue, but you know, we've just got a lot of cars, and
Well,
making those lefts is gonna
We
be
do,
tough.
but now we have motorcycles that think they don't have to stop at stop signs.
Wow.
And that's a
It's not-
trend. That's not the isolated example during a festival week.
Just
It's a
to
new thing.
just to make sure I'm understanding, what we want is we want a flashing red light that will be activated when there's a pedestrian, not a all the time flashing red light.
Right, just a
Just-
pedestrian.
Just when the pedestrian, just when the
Engages
pedestrians,
the button.
just when a button
Yeah.
is pressed, that it'll give us a flashing red light that will have the cars come to a stop. Because we will get into the Rancho Manana a little bit later, because we do have a study that's in process. We have the first draft that we've reviewed, and we're going back for comments and we can talk. That's the last slide on our
That's-
presentation today. So we haven't given up on Rancho Manana yet.
Well, the Morris memo may supersede all of these things. Because if you envision it, what you're just talking about, if you envision all traffic coming to a two-way stop, oncoming and other direction as well, for the duration of people to cross the street in more than one location, I think we may have accomplished what we're trying to do, which is to slow the speed down.
And I think when there are people in the crosswalk, you would have that effect, but when there are not people in the crosswalk, it would be still back, business.
Right, I mean,
as
that's the
usual.
bonus, I think, is you're only stopping traffic if there's pedestrians actively crossing, which would be during business hours. But if you would generously provide one more set of poles at Schoolhouse Road, we could have a poor man's traffic light. So,
Is there another community that is similar to Cave Creek? I don't think there is one in the Phoenix area, but other places. I mean, we've got some things that are unique in Arizona and, balancing having people looking around, which is great, with safety, it's tough. And the metrics, I agree with the mayor that keeping these metrics is going to be really important.
Yeah, and when we get to the Rancho Manana, I do have some of those metrics memorized.
Yeah.
From the report I've been doing and when we talk about some of the options that we're looking at and why they may or may not work.
So Cave Creek Road is asphalt, correct?
Cave Creek Road is asphalt.
Why can't you just score it so like you have on the, before you get to any of the crosswalks, before you get to the shark teeth?
Talking about rumble
Yeah,
strips.
put a rumble strip in.
Mm.
Put a rumble strip in both directions. That'll slow people down too, because it frightens you when all of a sudden you hear this. zip.
Yeah. We talked about that with maybe putting some deflectors, but scoring the concrete is also, or asphalt, something else we could look at. I will run that by our traffic engineer to see the positives and the negatives, since I want to make sure that what we do doesn't come back to bite us later.
Well, annoying noises tend to slow cars down.
So anyway, as far as these beacons, I'm hearing you'd like them, but in red.
We can,
Well, I think we put it on hold until we
Right.
come back with additional
yeah.
answers that they've asked.
Okay. Um,
One more comment.
sure.
I like the mayor's idea, but I don't want to do overkill and oversaturation. I would say that we need to have probably that red light where they come to a complete stop, probably where the one is in front of the Roadhouse and Harold's there. That's obviously the key place. And it's not at 7:30, it's later at night, especially when the buffalo chip lets out, when they're done about 9:30. But I also, correct me if I'm wrong, Grady, but we are going to beef up some a sheriff's presence in his car there on Fridays and Saturdays during the season. There's a deterrent as well. But yeah, I don't think, and coming on Councilman Augerton's comment, I never want to see a traffic light in the town core. Sorry, Tom. I'd fight hard against that.
I have a question, and I haven't seen your full presentation. Are we going to be talking about additional lighting features in the town core at all?
Not in this presentation. We know that that's something that we've looked at, some pathway lighting,
Yes.
low level pathway lighting.
Mhm.
We haven't figured out quite how to do that. What we're finding is that the solar arrays that are used are not very dependable. And they're ones that if we start, it's one thing if we have maybe 10 or 12 emplacements like we do now. If we all of a sudden go to 100, then that's a lot of batteries, a lot of maintenance and things like that we have to look at. And the problem is that to get a meter and run electrical is we'd have to price that out. We haven't done that yet to do standard low level APS driven lights.
Okay, because from my perspective, that's just as important as slowing down drivers. You know, we have a lot of foot traffic, especially on the weekends, and you can't see them on the paths, and they are not necessarily sober. So it's a safety issue on both sides of the street. So I think we need to make it a priority to look into how to get at least the, what do you call it, the bar triangle lit for pedestrians.
Okay. We can certainly, we've looked at some low level lighting that will, illuminate the path.
Mhm.
It's not high up.
Mhm.
It's just, basically, the hip level so they can see the ground.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'm going to agree 100% and then some with Catherine about that. And Dr. Bradshaw over at the Roadhouse and Hideaway, I know he wants that as well. Maybe he'll share it with us.
We can always ask.
You got a tough job.
Okay. The next one we have is, so then we're looking at two different crossings. That we would put the same light, push button, this time with the beacons on. So the first one is at Viola. So this is the area where people are coming out of the parking lot. So to give you a reference, the chip is to the lower right out of here. This is the crossing that takes you basically across to the Circle K area, across the street from the chip. And so we would be putting in a rectangular flashing beacon. We would be putting in the beacons at the 12-inch beacons on the pre-warning sign. And it would have the light fixture that comes out so that it illuminates the crosswalk when the button's pushed.
So would this be in addition to the crosswalk that's there at Hideaway?
It would be the one that is yes, this wouldn't be in addition. I believe this
Pretty
is
close
a,
together.
let's see. I'm trying to remember if this one did not have a crosswalk at this location. So this would be a new crosswalk that would be lit. And then whether we got rid of the one at the Hideaway or not, this one is one that would be, this is where the people are crossing. They're not
Right.
going down to the Hideaway crossing, which is really by the, down about a couple 100 feet down. They're crossing pretty much at this location. They come out of the parking lot. They either go to the chip or they start coming across. They cross the street because they need something at Circle K.
Yeah,
So
I think the visibility of this location is better than the one that exists right now at the Hideaway that's right on that curve without very good visibility.
I agree. And this one was rated, this one only had a benefit cost ratio of 1.2 in the old study. But I think it's actually grown as we've now put the parking on Viola, which
Mhm.
wasn't there before.
I would agree with Cynthia. You can't have those two right next to each other. And I'm sure that the Hideaway crossing was there because at one time Rebel Ranch had a lot of activity. Obviously, there's been no activity there quite a while. I'd eliminate that completely and I would put the one across from Viola so we don't have overkill again. And that would force people to go down to the main crossing there across from Circle K.
Okay.
The only thing to remember is most people at night are wearing dark clothing. And they stumble across the street wherever they happen to be. We're lucky that Harold's and the Roadhouse are across the street from each other because at least people do pay a little bit of attention. But I've seen people in the other locations. I mean, I was got my wife's car washed today, and I saw 3 or 4 people just darting through traffic. Nowhere near a crosswalk.
I've seen that everywhere in town, to be honest with you. As I've stated in the past, this is the jaywalking capital of the world.
They still play Frogger the real game. Yes.
It's a part of our definition as a town.
So Hal, I think we're hearing to
Right.
abandon the other one and then this would be
This
in
would be
its
the
place.
primary one, yes.
Makes it tough to keep Cave Creek.
Okay, and then the other one that we're looking at is there's an existing crosswalk right now at Linda Drive. And what we want to do is augment that, fix that one up too. For many reasons. One, it's right there, since the study was done, and it did have a good ratio of 2.3 at the time to outfit this one. You've got Frontier Town to your left. You've got the new Focus on the Family to the right. You have the Prickly Pear straight across the street. You have El Encanto. And then if and when the new hotel comes in, it will be just on north of the Prickly Pear. So this would be a walkway that I could see being used quite a bit for pedestrian traffic to get to Frontier Town and to Prickly Pear and to other places in the town core.
And don't forget the strong rumors about that actually tomorrow there's going to be an announcement, I've been told, that Big Earl's will be in the old Hanson spot, which will bring even more activity to that area.
Yeah, so again, I think this location will become one of our busier crosswalks. And it's not far enough or that far away from the crossing at the stoplights or stop signs, sorry, I almost said stoplight, Freudian, I know.
Yeah.
Stoplights at Schoolhouse. But this would provide, again, I think a safe crossing for where I see extra pedestrian traffic coming through between, like I said, El Encanto, Prickly Pear, Frontier Town, and the Focus on the Family.
My anecdotal evidence is that this is the busiest daytime crosswalk in
Yes.
town.
It's true.
From what I can see.
Yes.
From
I
what
see it all the time when I'm at El Encanto. People at Frontier Town are crossing and vice versa all the time.
If the hotel goes in, people don't really cross at the four-way stop sign, but they cross here, I guess, to get to the.
Yeah, I think making this one a formalized cross-section with the same type of lights will be, a beneficial location. And I think, like I said, the benefit cost ratio was 2.3 before, and I think that's only gone up and will go up when the hotel is there because it will be right out the back of the hotel. They'll come down through that pathway through the Prickly Pear and the bank, and they'll be right at this crosswalk.
Is the hotel going to have access on that west side so they can walk down the street near, say, between El Encanto and?
I don't know that they're fencing it. I don't remember seeing a fence, but it's a steep slope between where the there's a slope between or where they're building the hotel and down to the El Encanto parking lot. There's probably about a 5-6 foot rise.
Well, I hope we're thinking about how people are going to access Cave Creek Road from that hotel walking as one of the, not just focus on the traffic. I mean, we really need to, if they're coming to Cave Creek, they're going to be walking, trying to get from the hotel to Cave Creek Road.
And that's one of the things we're looking at. It's not in this presentation, but as we've been dealing with the hotel developer, they are extending the concrete sidewalk from the subdivision, Galloway Ridge, down in front of their property. And then the town will probably come back to you for a project that would extend that crosswalk in front of the post office and then in front of the bank. So that would get them down to Cave Creek Road.
Well, we have Luke here with the development. Luke? Are they going to be building a fence around the hotel? So that people can come back on the west side, down past
I don't remember seeing one.
the Prickly Pear?
So commercial development does require a barrier around the property, any parking areas, so they're banding their parking around the exterior of the lot. All of that will have a solid wall. So that, you know, headlights and different things are not bleeding off the property.
Is there going to be a pathway on the west end of the hotel to Cave Creek Road?
I can't say that I recall seeing one. I know the prominence of how the site is configured is really looking towards schoolhouse and having pathway and interconnectivity with our sidewalks and pathways on schoolhouse. There is vehicular access from the southwest
Yes.
corner, so presumably you could walk, you know, off the driveway onto the property behind the post office, or on the post office and out here by the prickly pear.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a access, the access that is on the south side of the post office. The north half of that is owned by the hotel property. So that access, they will have an access there out to schoolhouse. But they're totally, but they also want some connectivity. At our last meeting, they wanted some connectivity to Cave Creek Road.
Correct.
They even asked Luke if they could get a Cave Creek Road address on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, Luke, I got a couple very quick questions for you. I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. So the permits and everything's all done. The hotel could start building anytime, correct?
No.
Okay, how's that? Tell me about that.
Permit was submitted in December. Review comments were returned to them in late January, and we are awaiting their corrected revisions for plan submittal.
Thank you. If you had to take a ballpark guess, when do you think they're going to break ground?
I believe once their permits are issued, weren't they thinking something to do with financing?
I remember September, but I don't, again,
Yeah.
I'm remembering a September timeframe in the last conversation we had with them, but nothing in writing or, no.
And if the Retablo corner gets developed, that's going to increase the importance
Correct.
of that intersection.
Correct.
The Retablo corner in the Mercado. The only thing that's keeping that from going on right now, correct me if I'm wrong, is the fact that we're not gonna give them water at this point. Am I correct?
When you say that are you talking about the collective? No,
I'm not talking about building, I'm talking about drinking water and water for their residents.
Water is an issue.
Water resource allocation is the limiting factor with their approved development plan. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And then the last one is the understudy, the control changes to the intersection at Rancho Manana and Spur Cross Road. We went through, we looked at the draft report that they prepared on Rancho Manana, and they have already collected the control data for Spur Cross, but we decided to make it one report. So we're still a couple of weeks away from getting that final report back. It will be looking at left turns. Since I've sort of memorized the ones at Rancho Manana, we have about 8,000 cars a day traveling on Cave Creek Road. We have about 400 cars a day trying to make a left-hand turn out of Rancho Manana. So we had them look at a couple of different scenarios, and this was working with a traffic consultant, which was a do nothing, just leave it the way it is. An all-way stop. In other words, a four-way stop. I can tell you that one, at least in the draft report I saw, was not recommended because of the possibility of more rear-end collisions. Because of the 8,000 cars a day on Cave Creek Road. A lane reduction traffic calming on Cave Creek Road. That one they're going back and looking at another alternative on right now. a modern roundabout, which was their ultimate recommendation, but it's a $750,000 ticket plus probably buying some land. And access control median configuration, which I think Councilman Friedman would like, which would basically set up Michigan lefts.
You know about that?
Yes. So we're having them look at what would happen if you took the 400 cars a day that would have to make the that wanted to make a left-hand turn, make them do a right-hand turn, come back down and U-turn. So we're looking at we're looking at those scenarios before we make a recommendation to council.
Was it 400 or 4,000?
On Rancho Manana, 400,
Oh.
402 cars are trying to make a left-hand turn on a mid-March day in 2025. And about 40, the peak hour was about 40 cars in an hour.
You know, Hal, the Michigan left is proven. I mean, it's been around longer than anything, considering that we basically invented mass transportation in Michigan. So, you know, it was the first, we'd all be riding horse if it wasn't for us and Henry Ford. So.
But anyway, I just thought I'd let you know that this study will be coming before you. One of the things that we were trying to look at doing is whether with the lane restriction, was whether we could make it so that it still provided the safety. It didn't totally obstruct the level of traffic or level of standard for passing cars through, but there could also be some traffic calming or slowing as it entered the town core. Then if that worked there, then we go back to Galloway on the other side of the town and see if we could then implement it there.
With Michigan lefts at both, effectively have a traffic circle.
One huge traffic circle, yes. There is a graphic that they have, but the traffic circle, again, you know, my position, I've never been a fan of them, but the level of service doesn't diminish when we do it. And I mean, I don't want to say carefree, but they have sort of implemented that lane reduction through their town core, and they've slowed traffic down. Again, I'm keeping an open mind, Joe. I'm keeping an open mind.
Well, I want to ask you a question, Hal.
Sure.
If you were sitting up here right now, and again, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but which option would you choose? I'm curious what you think is the best option.
I want to see what the consultants come back with after we've given them the extra information. One of the things that we were looking at was a lane reduction with a protected left coming out of Rancho Manana. So reduce the lane, but do it basically start out with paint so that if we have a fire emergency that needs to get through, they can, there's nothing stopping them from doing it. It was really interesting looking at the traffic data for this intersection, in that for whatever reason, I don't know what was in the water in 22. There were 5 accidents at Rancho Manana, at the Rancho Manana intersection. 5 in 1 year. Since then, there have been 0. In 23 and 24. We don't have the full 25 data, has not been published yet.
But the residents who requested us to look at this have all claimed that they have been in near accident.
In near accident conditions, yes. So that's why we're looking at it.
You know, that area there is really, I don't know what you'd use, but the traffic needs to be calmer in that area because you have people coming into town who don't really get down to anywhere close to 30 miles an hour. And then leaving town, they're accelerating because they know they've passed the last of the.
Right.
So that is a ripe area to slow things down mechanically where you don't have to put a policeman out there all the time.
Right. And that was actually one of the recommendations within the first loss local area safety study, was to do something at that intersection. So we are looking at it, and we're going through the steps and the recommendations that we're getting from the traffic engineer.
So one last question.
Sure.
Maybe. Galloway with the new apartments.
We don't see that as being the apartments themselves are not the issue. It's going to be it's the housing that's growing up in the hills above Galloway that is driving it more. There are more car trips out of that. Galloway, I believe, is 28 or 32 units, Luke.
30, no, sorry. 32 years.
32 units. So they're most going to be two housing or two people per unit type of, or maybe I think if we were looking at it, 2.2 units. So it's really 60. You double the car trips. So you're looking at probably 120, 125 car trips a day out of it. I mean, right across the street, you have the mall, which fortunately is getting more people in it. But that's a bigger driver of the traffic.
But are we looking at that?
We will after we get done with this one. We're going to see how. I'd rather pilot test it on Rancho Manana coming into our town there. The problem that we have with Galloway is that when it was constructed at a 10% grade coming up to that stop sign. So it's blind when you start. You're on a curve on Cave Creek Road, so you have a hard time seeing to the left and a hard time seeing to the right. So I think that one's going to require its own special study when we're ready, when it's time, but it's tough.
I think it's time now. And in fact, I think it's past time.
Yeah.
I know all of these are a priority, but to me, it's almost impossible to get out of there safely.
Yeah, it is an interesting intersection, and it is hard to see.
I think the Michigan left there would be tough.
It would be. But you're only dealing with one, you're not dealing with a four-way intersection. At Rancho Manana, you have four, because even though you have 400 cars leaving Rancho Manana trying to make a left, you have another 95 cars from the other side of the street trying to make a left out at the same time, or within the same 24-hour period.
So can you just give me kind of a guesstimate on when we might be able to take a look at Galloway?
Let's go through let's finish this study up, and then we can see how the reaction, what we're getting out of it, and then we can task them to do another study for Galloway. But it'll probably be, I would say sometime this summer, we could task them out.
Okay.
So in the season, I've seen traffic back up on Rancho Manana. I've seen traffic back up 5 or 6 cars, particularly as people play golf in there. So March might not be the best time to take a look at that. You might want to take a look at January or February, because you're going to be much busier then. People are, actively spending money playing golf and doing things like that. And I think you're going to see a higher traffic number. I've seen the same thing on people trying to take a left-hand turn on Spur Cross. I've seen them, 4 or 5. It's almost easier to turn right, go down and make a U-turn. But then you're taking your life into your hands, because the point you're taking a U-turn is at Rancho Manana, and people are not happy because you
went by them and now you're making a U-turn
Yes.
and stopping them from doing their left.
that is correct. So it's not a happy way for either one. But I'm just curious, what are you looking at for Spur Cross?
Well, that's one that we're looking at these same alternatives at Spur Cross. And the question would be, what is the impact on the access control median configuration? It's sort of like the Hotel California, the way they've got it right now. You could make the left-hand turn into Rancho Manana, but you wouldn't be able to make a left-hand turn out of Rancho Manana. And same thing across the street. So it would allow you to turn in, but you'd have to do the forced rights coming out, and then the Michigan left to go back in your direction.
I just have to comment. So anybody living north of Cave Creek Road from Rancho Manana to Carefree, there's no place to make a left under this new design? Everybody would have to go right and do a U-turn in the commercial corridor?
That's why we're still in the process of looking at it. We're not ready to pull it forward because we're asking those same questions.
Stop signs are your friend.
The problem that we have with stop signs is that the projection is that the accidents would almost triple at that intersection because of rear end collisions. Because you have 8,000 cars versus 400 cars. And the stop signs, so you're stopping all 8,000 cars a day going northbound, and you have 8,000 cars also going
We
southbound.
want them slowing down coming into the town anyways. Why wouldn't we just put a bunch of rumble strips and other things there,
Yeah.
traffic calming, but
Well, that's one of the things that we are looking at when we get into the lane restriction, to force them into a pattern that they would have to slow down before they come around the corner into the core.
put some fake traffic cameras there.
Hey, more flock?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about flock. You put up the box and if somebody's going over a certain speed limit, the camera flashes. That slows people down pretty quickly.
Anyway, so that's what I've got today for you. Any other questions that I can try and answer on pedestrian safety or what we're trying to do with the intersection control?
Good luck.
Seeing none, nothing else on the, this agenda item. So without, if there are no objections, we'll adjourn the meeting.